In this video, we're going to look at the functions on the sample strip, the second horizontal row on this page. Now, to start with, we have pitch control, and this transposes the actual pitch of the samples, whereas here, this transposes the incoming MIDI notes. Now, for example, I have a drum loop playing on here, and as I transpose the pitch, this interacts with the mode of synthesis that we have chosen here, and this is set in resampling mode, which is the traditional sort of behavior, meaning that when we increase the pitch, the speed and tempo go up along with the pitch. When we decrease it, they'll go down. So for example, here's the loop. And if I lower the pitch, it'll get slower and lower pitched. So pitch and tempo are locked together. Now we have fine tuning where we can fine tune the pitch of samples in between semitones, and we can go plus or minus 100 cents, and 100 cents is a semitone, and command clicking will snap it back. This sets the interval for the pitch bend range when you use a pitch bend wheel on your MIDI controller. And it's set to an octave right now, but you can go plus or minus 2 octaves, and if you snap it to unity gain, you'll get it at 0. Or unity value rather, at 0. So now with this at 12, we can use the pitch bend wheel to modify the pitch of the samples. And as I move the pitch bend wheel on my controller, you can see it reflected here in this graphic display. Now we have other synthesis modes here. Pitch, shift, and time stretch allows the tempo and the pitch to be treated separately. So for example, in this mode, when I lower the pitch, the tempo will be maintained. So very effective for that type of handling of samples. And we can also get into a granular synthesis type of effect here where we can slow the pitch down with this grain knob and break apart the samples into tiny grains and then affect the time in them as well. So a lot of really interesting possibilities are available with this mode. Now we also have another synthesis engine mode, and that's the stretch mode, which is unique to IK Multimedia's sample tank. And there's two modes, note and phrase, and they're just two different algorithms. But basically, this allows us to treat the speed and the pitch separately like this does, but we also have control over the harmonic content, the formants, so we can change the quality of the tone of a note. So you can see it just sounds slightly different with the two different algorithms. So lots of interesting sound design is possible with these stretch modes. And on pitched instruments like guitars and keyboards and woodwinds and strings, you can get some nice sort of different formants and different colors and qualities to the tone as well. We have the panning knob over here, and we looked at this briefly last time. This sets the panning for the entire instrument, but this panning will set the panning for whichever specific element that we're working with, and we choose this in the element articulations over here. Now this drum kit only has this one, so let me go to another sample. On part 3, I have a bass loaded in. And this particular instrument, as you can see, contains different elements. It's got sustain samples, legato samples, and noise samples, so I can pan the specific element uniquely from the others. So the noise samples are panned left and now the legato are panned center. And similarly, editing the other parameters, let's say in legato I want to maybe adjust some of the filter parameters here. That'll be stored separately or edited separately from the same settings on the other elements. And finally, in this sample strip row, we have a round robin button. And what this means is when you're playing multiple notes on the same pitch, instead of triggering the same sample all the time, you can use round robin and have it alternate between samples so you don't get the same sample being fired off over and over again and sort of giving away the fact that it's an artificially triggered sample rather than a real instrument. So the round robin allows alternating samples when repeated notes are played, and when it's off, it's going to just play the one sample per note and per velocity. As it's triggered over and over again, it'll play the same one versus switching between multiple instances of the same sample. And round robin, you should know, isn't available on every instrument. So some of the instruments have round robin samples embedded in them, some don't. And if it doesn't, this will be grayed out. So that's the sample strip over here. And we'll continue with more in the next video.